I would like to open with 2 minutes about Israel Innovation Authority, which is a government arm that investing public money into the private sector. In the research and development for new technology, for emerging technology, and we operating with the three main pillars. One pillar is investing in research and development for technology transfer from academia to industry, startups, and small and medium-sized companies, and even large companies when they're coming with new technologies. The second pillar of our activities is looking for future technology. What will be the emerging technology 5, 10, 15 years from now? And that what we are looking to make sure that Israel will be in a leading position, not only today, but 2, 5, 15, and even 20 years from now. In that, we are counting quantum technology, artificial intelligence, biology and engineering, which we call bioconvergence, as well as climate tech. The third pillars of our activity is to enable new technology like autonomous vehicle to operate on the roads. And in order to do that, what you need is to coordinate an effort between government, regulators, and the private sector. And that's coordinated effort with the government is the third pillar of our activities. Overall, Israel Innovation Authority invests about $500 million every year and investing in more than 2,000 startups annually. The autonomous and smart mobility is one of the focus area of our activity. Recent adjustment of the law of transportation was motivated by Israel Innovation Authority. We are already in the second phase of a drone initiatives where 30, 40 different drones flying in the same unit cell and all controlled by the central command and all approved by the civil aviation and by the Ministry of Transportation. We're also driving piloting of autonomous public transportation. Some of the winners of that grant are sitting here, and we are very, very proud of them, and we're proud that they took a chance in this pilot of autonomous public transportation, which for the previous discussion, I think that the public transportation is the future. In any case, for Israel, for sure. Since 2018, Israel Innovation Authority invested in automotive and transportation $400 million in about 200 companies in different forms, research and development for private companies, consortia that compose of academia, industry, and the government. Some of them are remote management of robotics fleet. It's called Andromeda. Avatar consortia, autonomous vehicle in advanced technology for situational. The STEP, transportation of electric power solution, and smart opening and smart mobility lab. Last and not least is a coordinating initiative that I mentioned, drones and autonomous public transportation. So that is the introduction of the Israel Innovation Authority. And now I'm very, very proud and excited to invite our panelists. I have to repeat what I always say as a chief scientist. When technology works, I'm always amazed. So let's start. Nicole, maybe you introduce yourself in a few words.
Yes.
Where you're coming from.
This is my first time to Tel Aviv. I'm having a great time. All I'm doing is eating and running up and down the boardwalk. It's amazing. So I'm with Woven Capital, and we are the growth fund for Toyota. So we spend a lot of time with the different business units, helping them with their strategic areas, helping them accelerate their technology development in areas such as software-defined vehicles, obviously electrification, batteries, charging, autonomous driving, anything really around the future of mobility. So as an OEM, what are we thinking about to really move forward the future of mobility? And our team is global. I myself just moved to Tokyo late last year, so I'm attempting to learn Japanese and really enjoying the city. And we're a team of investors and operators, and we really want to be the bridge between the Toyota ecosystem and startups. So we work a lot with startups, and I like to say we're time travelers because a lot of startups, you in the audience, you think in weeks, and a lot of big corporates, just because of the nature of the beast, they think in years. And so how can we actually be that conduit to really help those two groups work together? And, at the highest level, if you want to think about it, our mission is the movement of people, goods, and information. So we're really looking for startups around the future mobility that want to work with Toyota around those three areas.
Thank you. And Alicia?
Hello, everyone. My name is Alicia Bahar-Manoa. I am from the Catalyst Funds, a general partner at Catalyst Funds for over 5 years. And Catalyst is existing over 24 years, and proudly to say that we are investing in the Israeli high-tech technology over 2 decades, and mainly that in the growth late stage. We are very active in the smart mobility and the energy in other industries as well. The main goal and what we are doing is that to scaling up the companies outside of the Israel and being a part of their journey until their exit. So happy to be part of the EcoMotion community.
And last and not least,
All
Joe.
right, good afternoon, everyone. So Joe Tembush, investment manager with the Corporate Venture Capital Group at Magna International. Magna is one of the largest Tier 1 automotive suppliers. I like to joke that we're a Tier 0.5 because we actually manufacture vehicles, which means there's no component on the vehicle we don't touch in some way, shape, or form. Either we manufacture it or source it and assemble it into the final assembly. And if you look at our CVC arm, we really invest across that entire automotive value chain. Anything from electrification, ADAS and AV, new materials, new mobility, so moving away from being an automotive supplier to a service provider, and then anything factory of the future, Industry 4.0 related. I will say we're somewhat unique in the automotive space because of that, and we do have a global mandate, but when we talk with startups, oftentimes, yes, they're interested in our funding, but they're more interested in our engineering and manufacturing expertise. How quickly can we bring these technologies to market? So with that, I'll hand it back to Ami.
So the mobility sector is really going through a major changes from the autonomous car that I think everyone now push it out. Depend on the company, it's depend how far out they push it. How the financial world, the VCs, how they look at that? What is the way that you evaluate those changes?
So as an OEM, we're building a lot of the things ourselves, but ultimately there's not enough time and there's not enough money to be able to do a lot of those things internally. And so the role that we play is we're working with those business units to understand what are we building, what are we partnering on, and how can we actually introduce startups to help a lot with that. And so that's really what we're doing, specifically with autonomous driving. We have a number of teams working on different components of that, and they're actually working with startups. So we actually just made an investment in an Israeli company, our first, called Fortelix.
Mazal tov.
Yes, yes. And they do simulation, so they're working with our simulation teams around testing for autonomous driving. So that is an area that we're really looking at. And with the current economic climate, if that's kind of what you were getting at, it is getting tougher out there for startups to raise money. And so what we like to bring to the table, and Magna as well, I've worked with Magna on and off throughout the years in some of the companies that they've looked at, is how can we also bring that core customer to the table, which really helps with the startups when they not only get money, but they get that POC, that commercial agreement, and that expertise that comes with the engineering and the product development teams in-house.
Joe, how do you see it in the tier one suppliers? How do you see the trend, the change? Because to change a production line, it's not the next day
It's
activity.
very difficult.
Exactly.
And even if you look in the AV space, we're kind of in this disillusionment curve, so everything's starting to come back. We're starting to realize what's happening in that area. And to Nicole's point, really looking for those partnerships with the OEMs. What are the OEMs striving for, and then how do we as a tier one integrator help with the startups to get into the OEMs, to partner with them, to partner with the products to actually bring something to market quickly? I think that's the key to this, because with the financing side, yes, that's required, but automotive design cycles in particular are very long. Many startups take 3 years to work with an OEM, to work with a tier one, just to get comfortable with the product, and another 3 years to get on a design cycle, which, to the point of talking in weeks instead of years, that's not acceptable for a startup.
So give us some sense of time. For example, we all know that if you want to develop a drug, you have to go through FDA, and it's 5, 10, 15 years before you can actually, from the inception of the molecule, to be in the market. In a change that now you're going at a tier one automotive manufacturer, how long it will take to qualify a product and introduce it to the market?
It really depends on the product, but I will say if we can get involved from the earlier stages, some of the seed rounds, some of the very early development trials, we can speed that up significantly. But then it really comes down to how quickly can you deploy it with the OEM's time frame. So you're still looking at 24 to 36 months to get on a vehicle, even if the technology is proven out.
The pharma market will buy it instantly.
It's much faster than pharma.
And if I could just jump in, one part of our model is we have a portfolio success team. And so once we make an investment, their job is to work with the startup and then to work with our internal business unit and to make sure that that happens. There's no miscommunications, to be the champion on both sides. And so we're seeing that's really helping accelerate some of these things so the timelines don't slip.
Okay. How do you see it, Leila?
I think the lack of financing is here, and it is everywhere. It is very similar in every sector. It's also in the smart mobility and autonomous driving. Many investments have been done from the VC perspective that several years ago, and there was and there is still a disappointment that the postponing of the autonomous driving in terms of the investments. But time is also that brings that a lot of opportunities, which means that during this all disappointment phase is that a lot of OEM and tier ones keep running that and working with the portfolio companies, Israeli portfolio companies, that how to make more efficient and how to make that more mature when it comes that to the market. So it is a period that we are facing that currently in terms of that financing, and during the next couple years it will be challenging. But these challenges will bring also a lot of opportunities, like M&A in terms of financing, or there is more that the strategic investments will be done together with the financials. So there is a hope.
Nicole, I cannot hold back my questions about the, you are from representing Toyota, and as a Japanese company, and Japanese culture, which is now in collaboration, what you want to invest in Israeli company. How do you see the culture interacting in the business, especially that Israelis are not that familiar with Japanese culture, and sometimes innocent say could be offending, or innocent behavior could be very, very offending. From my personal experience, I was in the semiconductor business. We sold a lot to Japan. It's happened to me personally, not once and not twice. So how do you look at that?
I was just telling a story earlier about when I landed and the taxi driver and scolding me for going to the wrong part of the airport to get my pickup. Just very different from Tokyo and my experiences there. And so I'm new. I've just moved there. I haven't been there that long. But I would say what's really refreshing within the corporate culture of Woven and Toyota is this sense of trust and this sense of making sure there's like a real sense of organization as well. So when we have meetings, there's a very clear agenda. There's very clear deliverables. There's very clear outcomes. There's very clear, so there's a lot of effort put into making sure there's a lot of clarity. So the steps may take a little longer, but there's very clear timelines on those things. So that's very, I don't come from a corporate background. I've kind of dabbled in corporate work in the past. But I would say that there's a lot of wonderful things I'm learning around, the ceremony and the relationship building that comes in that corporate environment.
So give some tips to the Israeli startups who are looking forward to have collaboration, like how they should come prepared for the first meeting.
So there's a couple of things. One is bring some of this amazing Israeli food as an introductory gift. That's amazing if you can do that. I'm taking a lot of it with me when I leave. The second one is just make sure that you have everything set out in your deck ahead of time. So if you're a startup and you're pitching any Japanese or Korean or Asian corporate, is making sure that not everybody has the same level of English understanding, particularly on very technical terms. So having your deck very clearly laid out, send it ahead of time if you can, and even maybe getting it translated. I think that would actually really help people read that ahead of time and feel that they're coming to the meeting very prepared, so that it can speed things up a bit and that there's just no miscommunication.
Joe, any thought you go through your company regarding hydrogen? Is hydrogen something that because everyone talk about electric vehicle, how about hydrogen?
Good question. So hydrogen's been 5 to 10 years out for the last 20 years. I think everybody's kind of aware of that. And if you look at the technology that's already out there for fuel cells, balance of power, and even in the fuel cell tanks and hydrolyzers, it's fairly well established. It's really a play to deploy this at scale very quickly. And if you look across the globe, different regions are deploying it differently. Japan and Korea, very bullish on this technology. Europe to a lesser extent. And I don't want to say North America it's non-existent because it is happening, but it's at a much slower pace than the rest of the world. What is interesting in the hydrogen space, and I'm starting to see more opportunities for investment here, is in the past year you've seen more hydrogen combustion come back, which I thought was a dead technology, but apparently I was wrong, along with e-fuels. So if you look at some of the regulatory environments in Europe, Germany in particular, they've rolled back some of their electrification requirements. So you can still use ICE vehicles as far as they have a carbon neutral fuel source, so e-fuels.
So last question for each one, and maybe Alicia will start with you. Israeli government realized many years ago that there is a lot of technology here that coming out from, let's say, from the defense ministry, and a lot of opportunity to be used in automotive, for example, cameras and navigations. And we paid money for General Motors. Well, we did a call for application, General Motors came here and opened a development center, and that research and development center created all circles and waves of more than 400 companies. And today, government are looking into investing into infrastructure and trains and so on. So how do you look at government activities and involvement with your approach and the funding?
Taking that, let's example the hydrogen, the future, that how the government can be a part of that, the hydrogen investments and where they can play that role. Today, the hydrogen is that it's a long way to work that with the infrastructure, with the environment, with everything around that. And in Israel, what the public sector can do, that start investing that from the smaller scale up, which means that we can start that from the shuttles, from the buses, to give that the trials with the hydrogen, where the private investors would see that as an example and go that to a larger scale to bring that the investment for the larger scale up businesses. So this is where we can work that together.
Any thought on
Yes.
how government can stay out of the way of Toyota?
No, so I'm from Canada, and the Canadian tech ecosystem, it has significant amount of money. Like what you were talking about, the 500 million that your organization is deploying annually here, the Canadian government does a lot the same. And so a lot of the companies I've invested in historically have benefited from this innovation funding. And if you think about things like the IRA and the new Green Deal, they are really driving adoption of technologies. So founders have these great ideas to deploy amazing technologies, and a lot of time it's the go-to-market strategy that becomes very difficult because these technologies are expensive at the beginning. So how do you bring down the cost curve? You get a couple of anchor customers, but things like regulation and credits and things like that can actually help drive that cost curve down as well, which then increases adoption. So just look at Norway with their adoption of electric vehicles. That's all driven by regulation. So, it's kind of like, a two-edged sword where, there's a real benefit to having some of that in place. It's just a matter of ensuring it incentivizes the right things.
And Joe, we have to...
So I would second that, but
yeah.
really what I would say on the government side is really being able to help with the scaling aspects. In the U.S., we see the Department of Energy funding through the ATVM loan program many of these gigafactories, which is a very fast way to help deploy batteries at scale. And I would say that's a very good success. The only other comment I would make to that is on the early stage technologies, take a step back and don't bet on just one technology, whether that's hydrogen, whether that's batteries, whether it's something else. Don't dedicate funding just for that, but dedicate it to the innovation.
Okay, I would like to thank you very much. We passed the time. One advice for the government: enable the market, don't drive it.